I call the Planning Commission meeting for September 7th, 2023 to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jackie, will you call the roll?
Mr. Perkovich.
Here.
Ms. Small.
Here.
Mr. Tiedemann.
Here.
Mr. Varga.
Here.
Mr. Crocker.
Here.
Mr. Haddon.
Here.
Mr. Cook.
Here, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes, August 17th.
So moved.
Second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Perkovich.
Yes.
Ms. Small.
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann.
Abstain.
Mr. Varga.
Yes.
Mr. Crocker.
Yes.
Mr. Haddon.
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes. Before we get started, I'd take a quick minute and let everybody know it's not Miss Mitchell anymore.
Oh, my God.
It's Mrs. Cantanzariti. Kathy was married this last weekend.
Congratulations.
Didn't even know you were engaged.
Everybody knows.
Everybody.
On tonight's agenda, we have two public hearings, and we will follow this format. First, the applicant will have the opportunity to explain what they would like to do at a particular location. Second, anyone wishing to speak in favor of that proposal will be given the opportunity. Finally, anyone wishing to speak in opposition will be afforded the time to do so, or some people may just have questions, and we'll try to get those answers. And with that, we have a conditional use permit to allow a salon and spa as a similar use at 7328 Industrial Park Boulevard. Is that applicant here? Please come up, give us your name and address, tell us a little bit about what you want to do.
I plan to open up Hello
Give us your
Gorgeous.
address real quick.
Oh, my address is 7328 Industrial Park Boulevard.
Okay, thank you.
Yolanda Henderson. I plan to open up Hello Gorgeous Salon and Spa and perform beauty services.
All right, thank you. Is there anybody wishing to speak for this proposal? Anybody wishing to speak against this proposal? This public hearing is closed. Kathy, anything from the administration?
Other than just, I'd like to note that the particular space within this multi-tenant building has been a salon since about 2015.
Thank you. Anything from the commission members? With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with two conditions.
Second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Perkovich.
Yes.
Ms. Small.
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann.
Yes.
Mr. Varga.
Yes.
Mr. Crocker.
Yes.
Mr. Haddon.
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes. Thank you.
Good luck.
We have a conditional use permit to allow a car wash, Clean Express Auto Wash at 7796 Munson Road. Is that applicant here? Please come up, tell us a little bit about what you want to do at Munson Road.
Hi there, my name is Jeff Plotz. I'm with Neff & Associates. Address is 6405 York Road, Parma Heights, Ohio, 44140. What we're looking to do is reuse the existing Rite Aid to create a car wash. The wash should be internal to the building. Come in the east entrance. Oop, that other one would be great. Come in the east entrance. And you would then circle through, and there's an option for some vacs inside the building within the exit on the west side. There would be an additional 18 vacs outside of the building. And you can see the queuing, which is from the south side and then wraps around the east side and ultimately north. So that's generally the proposal we have. Facade will be changed very little to accommodate it. Branding will be put on it.
Yeah, we'll take care of all that
Okay.
later. We just
All
want,
right.
we'll go through this conditional use permit first. So,
That's all I got there
that's
then.
all I got. Okay, is anybody here wish to speak in favor of this proposal? Anybody wishing to speak against this proposal? This public hearing is closed. Kathy, anything from the administration?
Mr. Chairman, we have 4 items noted under the conditional use permit conditions.
you have a problem with any of these, especially number 4?
Yeah, that's not going to be, we don't have that agreement with Sheets to eliminate that access. So that item would not be able to be addressed to this point. We have spoken with Sheets. Fortunately, it's a mutual agreement. So they have to approve our site plan, we have to approve their site plan, so any alterations need to go between the parties. And at this point, the communication between the two does not appear that that's going to be a possibility to,
Are you with him?
yeah, this is which, go ahead.
Okay. Give us your name
My
and
name is
address.
Joe Bertucci, 13375 National Road, Reynoldsburg, Ohio. I'm Director of Development with Clean Express Auto Wash. We've had multiple meetings with Sheets and with their attorneys. And the restrictive covenant that crosses that land is a restriction for both parties, and that neither party can change any part of their site without the other's approval. And then also the access points are a means of ingress and egress for cross-access for both. So in this particular instance, we are required to get Sheets' approval of our site plan before you can make any changes to it. And it was a non-starter if anything was brought up about changing the access points on the north and south parts of their property, as well as the signalized intersection. So they will not amend the restrictive covenant over that land if it alters those in any way. We have received a verbal and a signed letter approving our current concept plan. So long as there aren't material changes to that plan, they are in agreement with what we have showed you here today. Minor changes are okay. The actual amendment of that agreement will take place if we're successful through this process. But at no time will they entertain changing those, eliminating those in any way, shape, or form.
Thank you. Kathy, it was a condition of the city, so after hearing that,
Well, so the reason it was a recommendation is the concern that there'll be some vehicular conflicts at that intersection. If you have vehicles coming in, circling around the drive, and for use of the, what are you doing? You're stressing me out. For use of the car wash, and you have vehicles exiting, the concern was that there be some conflicts. And so we wanted to see better control of cross-traffic. One of the thoughts that we had was could that be moved down? But it's because of the traffic signal being right there. And again, cars coming in, cars exiting, cars crossing over from Sheets. And will there be any kind of cars that are in the queue that are waiting to be to utilize the car wash? Will they be reaching that point of the site to again create a conflict right there where the Sheets access point is? So that's why the issue was raised. We understand that there's a mutual agreement in place. Nonetheless, we still wanted to bring up the point. I don't know if the Planning Commission has any other thoughts on it.
thank you. Anything from the commission members?
Mr. Chairman,
Rich?
I went to the site today, like lunchtime, right around noon, and I just parked kind of where that white car is in the picture. And you can actually see in this picture where the traffic is going. They're driving right across the parking spaces that are in that parking lot. And I probably counted in 10 minutes more than a dozen cars do that. They're not using the little lane, I guess, that you call it up by Lakeshore. So what's going to stop them from doing that when you have a queue of cars waiting to get in the car wash? It looks like it's just going to be a nightmare.
Yes, it's a great point. I did the same thing you did a month and a half ago. I sat there at those parking spaces. Customers do cut through the parking spaces to get to the light, correct. One of the things Sheets has agreed to is to allow us to put a curb between those parking spaces. That will eliminate what I think is unsafe travel patterns currently that Sheetz customers have just become accustomed to.
Right.
That will eliminate that. There will be a curb because those are vacuum spaces. Our vacuum posts go on the parking stripes in our parking spaces, but we also want a curb there to eliminate any Sheetz customers from coming through or ours going through to a Sheetz customer's.
Kathy, would that satisfy the?
Well, certainly curbing would help. I mean, the other thought we had was to extend the landscape island that's at the entrance point, and extend it further down, even at the, I don't know if that could be extended a little further too, to minimize and again, make it wide enough for a double lane access. I don't know if it's already at 24, you think it is? Yeah. So, is there a way to, I mean, maybe some of those parking spaces could be eliminated where, oh, they already are eliminated. So where you were originally, where that landscape island is, yeah, could that be extended and then have the curbing go all the way around? That's certainly something to consider. At the south end of the site is another access point. I don't know if that's as readily used, but, again, any way we can minimize, access to the site. Now, to me, they're not using that access point unless they're getting a car wash. I don't see it's going to have the same use as maybe as it did before. I could be wrong. But the bigger concern was certainly to the north. But as much curbing as possible, any more landscape islands that could be added. Sheetz already has two access points. They have an access point to Meadowbrook, and then they have the access point off of Lakeshore. Granted, it's right in, right out only off of Lakeshore, but they have full access onto Meadowbrook. So it's not as if they're lacking in options to get off the site. So is it convenient? Sure. But we are really obviously concerned about safety at this point.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Varga?
based on the way people drive, I don't know, and that's your intake lane, right? That's how you get into the queue. You pass through there, right through. You come in and, well, no, wait.
There's Munson.
You're correct.
Okay, yes, I gotta put my glasses on. Arrows were going the wrong way. Yes, my concern is that now people from Sheetz, they're just gonna decide they're gonna cut the line, And why go back out to the beginning, and if you're backed up, they're just gonna try to cut across, and that's not nobody wants that, because,
I mean, from an operations standpoint, they would probably either cone that area off if that became an issue. You also have to keep in mind, we have 38 cars shown there on the
oh, I
plan,
understand, yeah.
queued prior to it becoming even an issue of where
Before you think it would be an
before they would even approach it. If you had the 38 cars in line and if people were cutting it, there was, employees are on site, which can do the traffic control, which that would take.
So, to some degree, it sounds like they're willing to use some temporary control of these crossover, that at least the one to the south, to put cones or something across there. You think Sheetz are gonna have a problem with that?
They may have a problem with that. I don't want to speak for them, but I will say 38 parking spaces is an abundant stacking
Yeah.
for a
no,
car
I see that,
wash.
yeah.
It is always, employees are always on site when we are in operation. There's an employee that is stationed at those pay stations at all times, an employee inside the building to help keep it moving. And also, to that point, typically the right pay station would be a member's pay station, and so as we do have a monthly subscription, so those customers come in, pull up, and the gate opens, and they proceed. So it's a very efficient transaction.
And just, Kathy, putting a curb there between the parking spaces on both sides, the spaces on Shield's side and the are those are vacuum spaces that are on I guess that's the west strip, not those, the ones across the aisle, those?
No.
Those are just parking spaces.
It will be vacuum spaces,
Those are
sir,
also
yes. You
vacuum
will not be
spaces.
able to pull through, and I believe that will
I'm
be
just, remember that we had a situation where people would just drive through bushes, drive across a 4-foot landscape strip between two properties. People were just driving through. They had to put up bollards before they keep them from doing it. I'm just concerned that I mean, I have nothing against the plan in general. I'm afraid that people will do stupid things when they're given the opportunity to do them. And I can see that even with a curb, even with your equipment there, people may try to drive through there, you know. People drive over the curb if they think they can get in the line, you know. It's like I'm almost saying, you know, could anyone consider, could you put up a fence? Could you put up a fence, at least along those westerly spaces that are your vacuum spaces? Could they put up a fence? I was just.
I think it sounds like you're looking for sort of a visual barrier, because also a fence, someone could drive through a fence as well.
Oh, there you
So
go.
these vacuum posts will create that visual, and they would be higher than a fence. The vacuum posts themselves are roughly 10 feet, and then there's a cross post for the vacuum. So you will see the post up and the arms as a visual deterrent, plus the curb.
Oh, yeah, I might put some bollards to protect that equipment.
And on the back, there's also trash canisters on each one.
I don't have a solution.
Kathy?
Now, on that point of traffic, Kathy, if you don't mind, once our customers are using the site, again, if we're successful, and if they're queuing at the light, I think you'll find that Sheetz customers by human nature will then start utilizing their curb cuts, because as you saw to the west there, they both have they have an access to make a right on Lake Shore. So if someone's, right now, if no one's at the light, I'm going to drive across parking spaces the shortest distance and go sit at the light and get out. If there's anyone sitting there and they want out, then they may change their traffic patterns. I think curbing off those parking spaces, one, slows traffic down on Sheetz. They then have to navigate the drive aisles correctly. And so that in and of itself becomes, I believe, a nice safety feature for this.
You have some?
It was our understanding that the vacuum stations were only on that side of the building, not on, so where
Yeah, I don't see that either.
where are the employee parking spaces, and how many vacuum spaces do you have? Because you have the 5 internal.
It turns out to be 18. You've got 7 and 11. Those are labeled at 12 feet, I believe, wide. And there'd be 3 standard spaces that are just 7. 1 handicap and 2 regular spaces are. A little blurry on that screen. Yeah, towards the front.
So you have one regular space and 2 handicap spaces, the rest are vacuum stations?
Correct.
So you only have 1 employee at any one time at this site?
2, but there's 2 standard spaces and one.
Is there any opportunity for anybody to enter the building as a customer?
Yeah, at the front there, at that northwest corner, there's a ramp right there, right by the ADA space, and that's where the front door would be. There's also a sidewalk against the building.
So where would they park?
Customers can use any vacuum space as a customer. Vacuums are free, so you technically don't even have to have your car washed, vacuum your car. So our customers will park in the vacuum spaces, whether they vacuum or not, and then enter into the retail front of the building.
But I don't see where you show the vacuums would be on that west line. I don't even see.
They're not drawn in there, no. They're just numbered as 11 vacuum stalls.
What number?
It's the bottom one that's 11.
Right there.
Oh.
So 18 outside spaces
Oh,
and
utility
5
structure, C
internal
4.0.
spaces?
Sorry, I didn't hear the question.
18 outside spaces for vacuums and 5 internal vacuum spaces? 23 vacuum stations?
20 is the minimum we go for at any one of our typical sites. Being a Rite Aid is a renovation, a larger footprint. But yes, 20 is not uncommon. I actually have, I don't want to misspeak, but it's 27 or 29 at one Rite Aid conversion in Western PA, and another one has 32 vacuums at another Rite Aid conversion in Western Pennsylvania.
Oh, thank you.
A lot of vacuums. I mean, just speaking for the administration, I would love to not see at least 3 of those vacuum stations in front of the building. I mean, that is just an awful lot of vacuum stations, and those things aren't exactly small. They're very visually impactful.
Very colorful.
I mean, if you could knock out those spaces that are on the west side and again, in front of the building line, that would be great. And those could be actual just regular parking spaces. It's a little concerning to me that there's not more than 3 parking spaces for the entire site. I mean, I understand that you have vacuum stations, but it just seems, it seems excessive. That's just my take.
So, just so that I understand what you're suggesting, on the west line, to make like the first 4 spaces, the employee spaces, or 3 spaces, 4 spaces to be non-vacuum spaces, make all of them against the building vacuum spaces, except for maybe the handicap space, and just pull that equipment back so it's not sticking out. Same number of things, just differently arranged?
The standard space would be smaller than those, so it would have to be some balance of that number.
What I'm getting at is, though, you've got 2 lanes of parking, and we're saying just take the same number of spaces, same number of sizes. Just arrange them so that you don't have the vacuum spaces out front on the west side, and have more of them against the building. I mean, you know.
I
is there
understand.
anything you
It's
can't-
just the math in my head. I'm not that quick to figure out. Like he said, the configuration,
Yeah.
to go back as far as Kathy's recommending us go back would reduce the number of vacuums that we are proposing currently. We moved just 2 spaces, 2 employee spaces, which are 9 feet in width to that northern portion of the site. See, it would only eliminate probably 2 vacuum spaces because that would. So we would still have vacuum spaces sticking out, which is not addressing concerns. And these do sit behind the Sheetz canopy as you're traveling eastbound on Lake Shore. So these do still, they are still situated visually behind the large Sheetz canopy out front, as well as the neighbor to our right, I believe sticks out. I'm not 100% sure of that, but I believe their building sticks out as well. So visually, you see them once you're on top of our site.
Mr. Chairman,
But as far as canopies and gases, it does sit below the canopy of the Sheetz.
Mrs. Small?
I'm kind of concerned if we're going to remove the vacuums, because we just talked about having the vacuums there as an actual barrier to the Sheetz parking lot. If we get rid of the vacuums there, then my concern would be that people would continue to drive through whether there's a curb or not. I feel like the vacuums are a large visual reminder to not drive through there.
I'd like to see maybe a half a dozen of those spots with no vacuums and like a landscaping island through there. And then you can't drive through it. And now you've sucked back, you've got more parking, would be the northwest corner there. And have a landscaping island continue down through there, not just a curb. People are gonna drive over that, and that's gonna be a nightmare when we get snow. And we get snow up there to maintenance that.
I bet, yeah.
So where do they push the snow? How do they get the snow out?
Sheetz will have to manage their own snow removal.
Well, I'm talking when your plow's on your site, and if there's a curb sitting there, what a nightmare. Where's the snow go?
We would love an island that would impact Sheetz parking, which they will not.
I mean, I'm not looking for an 8-foot island. I'm looking for something with some arborvitae or, I'm not an
We love
arborist,
it. We
but,
love landscaping, by the way. If you see any of our sites, we're huge fans of it.
I mean, are they okay with that? I mean,
They
you still have the cross access up on the north side of the site, right? That's ideally where you want the cars to drive anyway.
Sure, absolutely.
And other than bollards or some curb that you can't see in the winter, right? You're gonna drive right over it. Something a little bit more permanent to keep the cars driving across there. And I'm on board with Ms. Cantanzariti, is that you have, you have to have a little bit more of more than just a curb. And that's a lot of vacuums there. It seems like a lot.
And the number of vacuums are typical for our sites, and the vacuum posts do act as a visual, higher than any bollard for visually deter vehicles. Again, what we could do is the trash containers on the back, we could also angle over. And so those sit above any height of a bollard as well. And visually, that would be they would have to literally drive through a trash can, a metal trash can that is affixed to each post. We can angle those on 45s or even 90 degrees, and then that becomes another visual deterrent. I love the idea of a landscaped island. Those parking spaces in depth they're already 18 feet. Typically, we like 20 feet, and we just can't because we have to keep the drive aisle wide enough for safe ingress and egress. So we're already at the minimum length of our parking space, and Sheetz will not accommodate any loss of parking on their site.
Mr. Varga,
On a
you
different,
gotta get up.
on a different subject. We don't, right now, Sheetz has a landscaping berm between their property and the adjacent residential property. Or, I don't know if it's a berm, it's at least there, you can see it there. You don't have the opportunity to do that based on the space you have. Can we put up a fence for light mitigation?
There's currently a 10 or 12-foot brick wall that is there,
Oh,
and then
okay.
also
Okay.
mature shrubbery behind it. As far as
Oh, no,
lighting,
no, that's fine. No,
Okay.
no, that's it. I just want to make sure.
yes, I
Light
think it's a
mitigation,
beautiful wall, yeah.
Because traffic is coming in that way. I'm assuming you occasionally will be open after dark, different times of the year.
8 o'clock is the latest, so yes, wintertime, yes, sir.
Time, so you'd have headlights coming in, their residence is right there. I'm sorry, I didn't see the big brick wall.
Problem at all.
Perfect. Nice job last time. Brick wall.
A picture of the back posts, and then the trash cans on the back that can actually be angled over to then stick out as well. Or the parking spaces.
My mind's eye, I just see the car tangled in all that piping that just decided it was going through.
So we can't get past the cross-access easement. We're at an impasse here, I guess.
Correct. They just have 100% approval rights over the access points. They actually have an approval right over the entire thing. Like, we couldn't
Right.
change any drive aisle to one way.
Right. So what
Change
can
the
we
teardrop in
do?
the front, we had to get their approval to change that, our stacking teardrop. We needed to get their approval in order to make that.
So,
Are they the landlord?
No, they're
mean,
not, but
they-
there's a restrictive covenant that goes across the land. I guess when they developed it and Rite Aid was there, they came to
Okay.
anyone who comes to this site has to go through any piece of that site.
so in my mind, for me to be okay with this, we have to come up with a solution now or later that's gonna stop traffic from going over this. And I don't know if that solution is tonight.
Through the parking spaces.
Yeah, through the parking spaces. And to rethink the amount of vacuums that are there. I think we were all a little surprised at how many are there.
We went through like a 22-foot aisle. That makes that, sorry, it makes that area 4 feet wide, I believe, which might allow something to go in there.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Varga?
I know everyone's interested in getting everything resolved, but I don't see that there's a number of balls in the air, and I'm not sure how they're all going to come together. I'm going to suggest we table this. I know you may not be happy with that, but I think if we table this, that gives you time to review some of these items and maybe come back with a slightly adjusted.
Work with administration and come back with a solution.
Just a note, I did confirm the two-way parking aisle can be 22 feet wide, so to Jeff's last point, that is a possibility.
Yeah, but I'm just saying,
Not you,
there's,
the
yeah,
other
that's,
Jeff.
but I'm just, yeah, and I'm saying there's too many things right now to know if everything is going to come together. So
Mr.
I'm
Chairman.
going to make a motion. Oh, no, go ahead.
Just want to add to that before the motion. I think Kathy's comment of maybe just the first 2 or 3 sites and maybe trying to incorporate some sort of a landscape that maybe comes out a little bit, that we put the vacuum bays behind that portion. That's just reworking some of the spacing in that first little segment. And then I think with the addition of the vacuums and maybe that 4-foot buffer, I think that's going to go a long way to address this sort of driving through the site, which you can see and Rich mentioned. So I think that would definitely help. Jeff?
So I'm going to make a motion to table.
Second?
Yeah. Before we go, could we just go through all the conditions so that?
Yeah, we're going to come back and you got another crack at this here in a little bit.
Well, he's talking
This
about
has
the
just one of the
condition.
conditions.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Number 3, the dedicated bypass lane. I want to make sure that what we show as our bypass lane near the entrance is acceptable.
It's just before you enter the building.
Correct. So from an operations standpoint, if there's, somebody comes through the kiosk and they get to the front and their car can't be washed for some reason, whether it's too large, doesn't fit, I mean, usually that's the bigger ones. So if that's one reason why a car would be rejected from the car wash, or a car breaks down either in the wash or in the queue. So that's the reason the bypass is technically there. And it's rarely used, but that's the convenience of having it by the entrance to the wash, is for those 2 items, is when that occurs.
Kathy?
So when we first started working with the applicants, they had presented a slightly different plan that I know I talked with Jeff about briefly today. It offers a different design that might be a little bit more of what we're looking for. So if you can see here in this original design, the 2 lanes are maintained and that bypasses up further. There seems to be a little bit more options with this in terms of a car exiting, if they should need to, and note that it's before they pay, so that's also a nice feature too. But I mean, they may want to address that. But that was what was originally presented to us when we started speaking about this project back in June. So maybe if the applicant could comment on that.
So the kiosks really do need to be where we show them in our final plan. It allows the employee to come out of the building to safely get to the kiosk in a much quicker manner as they come and go from. The other issue with having it kind of halfway into the drive aisle is it just kind of makes it awkward. I mean, if you're coming from Sheetz, and yes, it's striped, but what keeps people from entering there? We don't really want that to happen. And from an operations standpoint, let's say a car enters and gets rejected at the car wash as they're entering and as they're being flagged in. The chaos that would create to try to back enough cars up to get that car out would be, that's a lot of work. Or if you have it close to the beginning like this, you might be moving back 2 or 3 cars most to get that car back out. That's kind of how they typically run.
Well, I think there's some work to be done here. We have a motion on the floor?
Motion to table.
Yeah.
Second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Perkovich.
Yes.
Ms. Small.
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann.
Yes.
Mr. Varga.
Yes.
Mr. Crocker.
Yes.
Mr. Haddon.
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes. Under old business, we have a building addition site alteration at 7852 Menor Avenue. I'll entertain a motion to dismiss this application without prejudice.
Pull off the table first.
I'll entertain a motion to remove this from the table.
So moved.
Second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Perkovich.
Yes.
Ms. Small.
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann.
Yes.
Mr. Varga.
Yes.
Mr. Crocker.
Yes.
Mr. Haddon.
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes. Now I'll entertain a motion to dismiss this application without prejudice.
So moved.
Second.
Jackie?
Mr. Perkovich.
Yes.
Ms. Small.
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann.
Yes.
Mr. Varga.
Yes.
Mr. Crocker.
Yes.
Mr. Haddon.
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes. All done with that one.
Just item of clarification, the applicant proceeding was asking if they'll be heard for the preliminary plan. Will you discuss that, or are you going to automatically table it?
We could discuss it.
We
I
could.
say we
You can
discuss.
discuss it right now if you,
Yeah,
if you want to move it up.
Sure. I mean, Mr. Chairman.
It just,
Yeah, what number was that?
8.
All right, let's get you right back up here. Under new business, building addition, site alteration, Clean Express Auto Car Wash, 7796 Munson Road. Come on back up. Is there anything you wanted to say more about the building or site alterations, or any clarification that you need, or?
I think we got it out. Facade's up for grabs now. So we are reusing the existing building. As you can see, the branding put on the corner. But in general, the existing brick facade will remain. And the rear old pharmacy will be removed, and the brick will be matched.
Mr. Varga?
Mr. Chairman, are you putting any new or different equipment on the roof?
No, in the past, we have removed those and capped them, and we have inside radiant heat in the tunnel, in the back area, and then a small sort of residential size makeup air units inside.
So there's nothing going on the roof, nothing going on the ground around the building?
That's typically what we do. If the units on top are good, maybe they can reuse them, but we don't add any, like, new equipment. HVAC is the only equipment on the roof
Right.
that we use.
The only issue would be to shield them from view. If you're going to use them or you're going to put something else on the roof, they need to be shielded with some architectural treatment.
Yes, agree 100%.
And I just have a question. I noticed that the two doors, the door going in and the door coming out, are two different sizes, height-wise. It just caught my attention, you know. Is one of them, is the one going in restricting your height significantly of the vehicles? One's a 4-panel door, one's a 5-panel door.
That is a very good question. Typically, they're the same size, quite honestly. If I'm looking at that visually, that the left door,
Yeah.
yes. Probably actually shifted over to the left a little bit, and when you see our drive out going into the building, like we proposed the site plan.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's probably shifted over, and it would match, the doors would match.
Well, they're
Typically,
I know, but they're
14.
different sizes. And the only reason I bring it up is if you have to make the other door larger, now you're affecting the elevation of the building, and, you know, you gotta take that window out, you gotta do, I'm not saying it's a big issue, but it just seemed to me like, shouldn't those doors be the same size?
And in the past, those windows underneath the features there with the canopy, that's the typical height of a Rite Aid when they typically build them, and that's the height of the garage door. Those windows are what we use as the top of the lintel, the open.
I understand. What that door is a 4-panel, that's a 5-panel.
I understand.
It's small. Okay, so it's fine. Oh, yeah, it was visually bothering me, that's all. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Mrs. Small?
I have a question. This is on a track system, correct? Like when you go into the car
There,
wash?
yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So when you have people pulling in and out of the vacuum spaces, I just imagine this creates an issue with if you have cars coming out on the conveyor system, and you have people trying to back up from inside the building. Have you had any issues with that specifically?
We have had no accidents in the sites of the Rite Aids that we've constructed to this point. Customers come out of the conveyor and take their time because you are turning inside a building as you would an inside parking garage. So they're already taking their time. And those customers parked in those spaces are very conscious of the fact that they just came from a car wash. So they're conscious about looking behind them, someone coming. We haven't had an issue as of yet. Seems to work out actually pretty well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything else?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'd like to go back to the elevation if possible. I just want to say, first off, great concept, because I think that reusing an existing building, and there are ample of these around the United States, I think this is a great solution. The only comment I had about the elevation, while I really love what you've done, I guess this really couples to what Jeff was saying with that door. If you could work it so that if that's the location there, maybe adjust it just slightly, and then if you were to extend up and sort of create some sort of a panel above it, whether it's spandrel glass or something, that it actually looks like it was there, because right now it's kind of this odd man out. Everything else looks great. I think that could help solve that problem.
Thank you.
you.
Is that all? With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Do we have conditions?
Yep. I think we were going to table this too, number 8.
Motion to table?
Second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Perkovich.
Yes.
Ms. Small.
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann.
Yes.
Mr. Varga.
Yes.
Mr. Crocker.
Yes.
Mr. Haddon.
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes. Under old business, thank you. We have a conditional use permit to allow a hotel greater than 35 feet in height at 8341 Tyler Boulevard. I'll entertain a motion to remove it from the table.
So moved.
Second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Perkovich.
Yes.
Ms. Small.
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann.
Yes.
Mr. Varga.
Yes.
Mr. Crocker.
Yes.
Mr. Haddon.
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes. All right, please give us your name and address. Tell us a little bit about the hotel. We'll just do the conditional use portion now, and then we'll move on to the,
My name is David Novak from Barrington Consulting Group. The address is 9 Venture, Ohio, 44. First thing I'd like to say is to Kathy. Thank you. It seems like that's the theme tonight, so I thought this was before you months and months and months ago, exactly how long ago. Again, we want to do a 4-story hotel. It's just west of the Giant Eagle, off of 615. To the north is State Route 2. South is Tyler Boulevard. It's a 120 room hotel, and it's 4 stories. To answer any question.
thank you. Kathy, anything from the administration on the conditional use?
Mr. Chairman, we've, and I know this was obviously rather late in the day, but we submitted an updated memo staff report for you to consider, specifically with regard to the conditional use permit. We're in possession of the easement agreement language that was drafted and actually signed. And we had some thoughts there. And I certainly would defer to the law director on, and particularly on the easement. We did make some recommendations to make those changes under the proposed conditions in order to keep it moving, but I'll certainly, again, defer to the law director on that.
Joe?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think a business day or two ago, we got the easement and cost sharing agreement by and between the adjacent property owners as well as their lessee, the Giant Eagle. It looks good, but it was fully executed and we didn't have a chance to previously review it. I'm not trying to fault anyone for not having some communications with the city prior to that. It was a little unexpected. And prior to the meeting tonight, I just talked to Mr. Novak a little bit, just to sort of expound upon what the amended staff report indicated. The fault isn't with the agreement itself. It does seem to satisfy a serious safety issue that obviously our safety services had identified relative to this specific use and not having the secondary point of ingress and egress to the site. Unfortunately, I think with the extreme weather we've had the past few weeks, it probably underscores the need, for this secondary access point. And that underscores our point that it needs to stay. And we have had some experiences in the past where developments were conditioned on cross-access easements, secondary, ingress and egress. And the flaw was that while that may have been a condition of site plan development for a specific property, the other involved property immediately adjacent either didn't have the site plan amended to also incorporate that cross-access easement, or the city was not a named party in the easement agreement. Well, what was the problem with that? Well, disagreements can happen. Good faith disagreements can happen amongst parties to these easement agreements, and we have seen that happen, such that what was required was blocked. Not blocked by the development for which it was made a condition, but by the adjacent property. And the city was left with extraordinarily limited enforcement authority. That property owner that blocked the easement, it wasn't part of their development plan. The city wasn't a party to the easement agreement. And that puts us in a situation where you either shut down an existing business over what someone else has done, or you find another solution. Fortunately, other solutions have been found. But the lesson was that the city should and needs to be a party with at least enforcement authority over these easements in two ways. One, that it not get extinguished of record unless the city signs off on it. That would prevent anyone a year or two from now saying, we don't really need this thing. We'll just extinguish it, and that gets recorded. Secondarily, if the easement is being violated, such that cross-access is blocked by some party at fault, the city would have direct enforcement authority pursuant to the easement grant. Take them to court, get injunctive relief, get it reopened up so that our safety services can get it and out of there. What happens if you don't do that? Well, you run into a situation where we really could be jammed in terms of getting emergency ingress and egress from there. And if the commission moves forward with this proposal and there is a hotel there, again, I want to underscore just how serious that is from a health and safety standpoint. So, again, I provided Mr. Novak an example of how we've just very minimally marked up these reciprocal easements in the past. I think he'll take it back to these parties. We're not trying to complicate it. Again, it's just a few line items that give us really significant enforcement authority. So that is my very long-winded explanation for the administration's additional conditions on the CUP. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Novak, are you okay with those conditions 5 and 6 and what I'm looking here?
Well, is all I can say, again, Law Director and I spoke just before the meeting, and again, city wasn't provided a copy of the easement. So again, I can appreciate the shortness of time for her to review it. We will, again, we're more than willing to work with the law to try to amend this easement. My only real concern here is that, and I don't remember when we were here last, but we've worked every day since then until late last week to get this easement approved. My concern is how much longer could these minor changes take? So, again, I would hope that we could get some approval tonight. I can go back to my client, try to work through this over the next few weeks before final approval. Hopefully get something that's amenable to the city.
Thank you. Kathy?
I guess a question for our law director, would, do the two items that are added as conditions, are those satisfactory to you to allowing them to move it forward?
Yes, again, and that's in light of the fact that I think the changes are fairly simple, and I don't doubt what Mr. Novak indicated. Knowing how to deal with some of these large corporate entities, I'm sure this took forever. But having come that far, I think the changes are minor enough that they can get some quick resolution. So I would not hold up this process strictly on that issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything from the commission members?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Varga?
Another aspect of the conditional use permit is the height issue. It seems that, I mean, I think it's obvious that this site is zoned for a maximum height of 35 feet with the possibility of increasing it with a CPU. On the other hand, it's always been just assumed, I guess, from the development side that you're going to get this extra height. My question is, what happens if we suggest you only go 3 stories and have a bigger footprint? Because there's certainly space on the site for additional, I mean, I'm not designing this, I'm not trying to change your design, I'm just saying that what are the forces that drive you to go to the 4 stories when you have additional space on the site for development?
Again, the way I understand it, it's more economical instead of stretching out the foot to go up. And in order to make this a viable project, we need to get to the 120. That's why
Maybe you
we're-
got to get into the mic here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to get yelled at.
But to get into to make it a viable project, it's cheaper to go up than it is out. And I would also note, I believe that the zoning to the west of this property, whatever it's zoned, it has a height allowed of 40 feet. Property just to the west of this.
And that brings up a thought. I'm not trying to be confrontational, but you could have asked for a zoning change on the property that would have given you up to 50 feet, right? If you go on to B3.
B3?
Yeah.
Right.
50 feet.
Yeah, yes, that's correct, but there's no B3 right there.
No, I'm saying he could have looked at rezoning the property to B3. And then he wouldn't have a height issue.
You have a rezoning issue.
Well, okay.
Yeah, I don't know
I do
that,
understand.
right,
I'm not trying to be absolutely comprehensive. I'm just trying to understand, we're presented with something that just automatically is 35% higher than what the zoning is. We're a planning commission. We're supposed to support the map, the zoning, the rules. Now, I know there's an exception but at least initially, the start point here is 35 feet, not 40, not 12 feet more, you know.
And again, I'd have to defer to Kathy, but I actually thought this property got rezoned to this
did.
district.
It did.
So it used to be the zoning next
Manufacturing.
door, so we would have been allowed the taller building. We did not think to go to, again, I don't think that we would want to try to go through the rezoning process.
My point only is to determine why we're being asked to allow for the increase in height. I don't know if there's any other comment from the board on this.
I just have a question for Kathy. Does M2 zoning allow for hotels?
Let me just, M2, let me just clarify.
It's listed here as the adjacent property to the west is an M2 property.
I don't believe so. Yeah,
So then it would be irrelevant whether or not it's 40 feet or 35 feet,
Right.
if that's not an allowed use by right.
Yeah, you can go to 45 feet in the M2, but the use is not permitted. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, in the M1, it's permitted, but as a conditional use, so no, I'm sorry, I stand the way, it's not permitted in the M2,
Thank you, Kathy.
not without a CUP.
I'm on board with Mr. Varga. The code is 35 feet. And to go 35% higher seems, I mean, a foot or two, is one thing, but like you say, 35% greater than what the code is, and we're given the code to follow the code as a planning commission.
I mean, my other thoughts, excuse me.
Mr. Barker.
My other thoughts on this is that if there were restrictions to the development of the property where you didn't have enough space, so you had to go up, you didn't have a choice. There was a lake, there was a wetlands, there was other reasons to justify just assuming the height, those things you can take into consideration. That's why I'm asking, it seems that the justification has nothing to do with zoning or the nature of the planning process. It's just because you want to do it. Not that, I understand the economy, but there's certainly, if you took that building and, I'm not trying to solve your problems or make problems for you. If you took that building and turned it 90 degrees and extended the ends a little further, you'd have all your rooms and you'd have it in 3 floors.
And we wouldn't need a conditional use permit, wouldn't need the easement that we worked so hard to get.
No, you'd probably still need the easement because we'd still need 2 means of egress. And that would still be required.
True, because the 2 means of ingress and egress is tied to the CPU. Conditional use permit.
It still may be a requirement of the fire department. I mean, it still might be. I guess I'm not trying to debate the fine detail of it. I'm just saying, I'm trying to get the justification for going to 4 floors when the
Economically,
zoning
it's
is 35 feet,
More viable project, up instead of up.
But then you could do 6 floors, and it'd be even more. You certainly have the space for the parking, right? I mean, I guess you see what I'm saying is that that's a justification for going 1 more floor. It's also a justification for 2 more floors or 3 more floors under the same justification. And there's a point where I'm uncomfortable with just developing for the sake of maximizing return on the investment relative to the site plan, relative to the level of development. That's all.
Mr. Chairman.
Mrs. Small?
I do agree with Mr. Varga, but for a different reason, and I guess my bigger concern is life safety, as we've seen a lot of, wood frame fires in the area lately. Is there any way we could make it a metal framed building?
Ms. Mitchell? Mrs. Cantanzariti?
I did speak with Fire Chief Searles this afternoon, and one of the conditions that he had recommended back in March when we met on this was condition number 2. The attic space shall be constructed with non-combustible materials. The reason for that provision is because their ladder only covers the 35 and the sprinkler only covers the 35. So with the non-combustible materials required in that attic space, he's comfortable that they can, as long as they meet that requirement, then the building is safe. That was his condition. So I did reaffirm that with him this afternoon. I spoke with him late today, and I said, are you comfortable if the building were to stay at 46 feet, 10 inches with that condition? And he says, as long as that condition is in place.
Mr. Chairman. I'm kind of on board with the 35 feet as well. Just because of the market district or that zoning that happened, you guys probably put a lot of thought into that, and to keep it 35 feet, I'm sure you had a good reason for that. So I'm kind of on board with keeping that height at maximum 35 feet.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
A question for Dave. I know that the height is listed at 4610, and that's to the ridge line, and I'm assuming that's to the highest point, and it looks like the center gable is close to that, maybe the top of these elevator towers. Do you have a height of the actual vertical 4 stories to the gutter line, let's call it?
I don't unless it's on.
Right there.
I don't have a set of the drawings with me.
Looks 36, 37.
I can't read it.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Crocker?
a question for the administration. Kathy, have we ever had a variance of this size, percentage-wise? I guess what you said it was 38%?
About 35.
35%. That you can recall.
We did, and we did some research back in March. Do we have those numbers in the file to pull up, possibly? There were similar numbers over in Diamond Center, which is Zone B2, and those hotels were approved. Some, I don't want to say all of them, but there was an approval, at least 1 or 2, for more than the 35 feet.
Aren't those two of those over there 4 stories?
They might be, but Mr. Vargar brought up a good point that you have a bigger parcel footprint that you could, we don't know all the details of why they went up there, and I hate comparing what they did there and what they did here. We're looking at this proposal, but I mean, I guess.
All right, he's got it up on the screen there.
43.
The highest one is 42, 42.4.
So they're 6 to 7 feet higher, essentially.
Parapet and top of the tower.
Kathy, anything else?
I have nothing else.
With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Well, let me see. What do we got? 14.
6.
We'll just do these.
Oh, yeah, 6. All right. Vote to approve with the 6 conditions.
Second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Perkovich?
Yes.
Ms. Small?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Varga?
No.
Mr. Crocker?
Yes.
Mr. Haddon?
No.
Mr. Cook?
No.
3.
We have a preliminary site plan of a hotel at 8341 Tyler Boulevard. I'll entertain a motion to remove that from the table.
So moved.
Second?
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Perkovich?
Yes.
Ms. Small?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Crocker?
Yes.
Mr. Haddon?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes. All right, let's talk a little bit about the site plan.
Well, on the new set of drawings that we submitted, as noted, I think, in Kathy's staff report, we did to make it more parallel to Tyler. On page, now that's on that drawing there, you can see the 2 access points. east side and one on the west. When we were trying to, obtain this easement from Giant Eagle, we looked at 3 different access points. One was where we finally agreed to was at that south end. We looked at having one right at the front face of the Giant Eagle building. Giant Eagle didn't like that because they were concerned that there could be increased traffic right in front of their building. The third one was the way at the backside of Giant Eagle. We didn't think that was a good option either because fire trucks would have to probably drive all the way around the Giant Eagle to get into that access point. That's how we came up with one at the south end of our site, right there where where that arrow. So those are the 2 big changes, is that we rotated the building a little bit. We now show those easements, both of those easements go all the way out to Tyler Boulevard.
Thank you. Kathy, anything?
We have the conditions noted, and that is particularly with item 1, that is inclusive of the comments that were made both in the March 23rd staff report and this current staff report. And we just made a couple other new comments in red under items 5, 6, and 7, and updated item 4.
Thank you. Anything from the commission members?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr.
Just
Tatum.
real quick, which side are we calling the front, I guess? Is it
The front-
facing Route 2?
Yes, the front will face Route 2. And I would like to have a little conversation, if we could, regarding the rendering that's up there. I'm not an architect, so you're going to have to talk in very plain terms. But again, we can surely have my client review this meeting, but I don't, that's what we're projecting the building to look like, stone or brick around the bottom. There's some stone over the top of the entrance there. Horizontal siding, brown in the gray areas. I don't know what that material is on those 2 towers, but that's what we're proposing. I know we don't have to get approval on that until the final, but I'd surely like to get some thoughts from the commission, just to say, yes, no, you're headed in the right direction, or start over.
Okay. Mr. Varga.
All right. You ask anybody in the board or on the council or on the planning commission, more masonry in general is always what everyone asks for. I think in general, you're breaking down the mass, you're changing colors and materials. The masonry along the bottom, that's the right idea, over the top. The canopy looks a little weak. I don't know, maybe that could be a little more substantial looking with the addition of maybe a little more masonry or something. I think the opportunity that you should look at to enhance, I think, are the large stair towers at both ends. They look kind of dorky industrial looking. I saw a reaction. Maybe an incorporation of masonry in those end towers. Maybe looks like there's some windows at the other end. It's hard to see what their full impact is, but I would suggest that maybe that's an opportunity to enrich the appearance a little more. You do see those as you come down the freeway. I'm not sure I know what's going on with that either. That large gray area I don't know if that's just a change of siding, or if have the architects look at trying to do more with those towers, make them more interesting, less industrial, masonry. Yeah, and four-sided architecture in all cases. There shouldn't be any situations where it looks like it's the back of the building. That's also a requirement for this whole development, that everything is considered to be a front, so to speak. We've had long conversations with many of the fast food or the chain restaurants, that they have to think about their building as a four-sided structure. So any kind of utility issues need to be shielded. I don't know what that is. And go back to the elevation again, just. Yeah, also, the area above the entrance, I know it's just rooms, just like the rest of the area, but maybe that could be emphasized a little more to kind of break it up, you know, left half, right half. And that's going to be on both sides. I think, you know, these comments are for both sides or all around the building. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman? For Kathy, because it says that the architecture should be in conformance with the city market architecture guidelines, what exactly, or can we give just a reference on what that is? We're trying to match it up a little bit with what's over there.
Talks about earth tones. I don't know how visible that is. Can we zoom in a little or no? Contrasting materials, soft colors, brick, cast stone, CMU, EFIS, metals, wood. So they want to see, you know, again, some contrasting materials. Sorry, I'm reading. You know, I think it's very consistent with our design guidelines overall, but the color palette should be warm and earthy. And again, contrasting materials is limited, and in limited amounts, encouraged to increase compositional interest. So,
There you go.
does that sound good? But we can provide a copy of this to the applicants should they need it.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Mr. Varner?
The color palette of the elevations, is that a standard, or is that a corporate image thing, or is it just what it's turning? I mean, that's all gray. It's all gray tones, which is not necessarily a problem. But she was suggesting that the market area might have more influence, or have a little more influence of natural tones. I'm not saying that has to, in my opinion, it's kind of off in the corner, but but if you want to incorporate it to make it look part of the development, it might be more natural tones rather than the gray tones. But the same kind of idea. I think the biggest opportunity is a little more expression over the middle on both faces, over the main entrance, and the towers, stair towers, to do something with that to make it more interesting. It kind of looks like a silo on the ends, and I don't think
It's earthy.
Well, okay, we could do the farm thing.
I shouldn't have said that. I apologize. I just,
Kathy, is there a percentage of masonry that they are required in that zoning district?
No, I'm sorry, I don't have these. There is not a percentage of masonry in this particular.
So it's like, it's per plan.
Yes.
Some of other districts require 50%
Yeah,
or whatever.
right.
But this one
Right.
is a per plan.
But I was suggesting that the middle of both of the long sides could be an opportunity to incorporate maybe a little more masonry. They started doing that, but maybe
right, whether it goes all the way up to that
Right.
gable end or
something.
play with something.
Right.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
I'd like to see the whole building brick.
Well, then I guess I can
I
leave
think we
now.
can start there.
No, I can tell you that's a non-starter. It's not, that won't happen.
Or at least a lot more than this. Because isn't Giant Eagle all brick?
Yes.
Built when materials were less expensive.
One and a half story building, maybe?
Got an idea for you.
Oh, boy.
My vote was 4-3, right? Okay, I just wanted to double check that.
Is there anything else?
Yeah, one more quick question, if I could.
Mr. Tiedemann.
You mentioned you shifted the footprint a little bit to make it parallel with Tyler, and I remember when you were first here, you talked about an outlot and future development there. Does that change that in any way?
If you go in our drawings,
It
I
does
guess
say
on
it on
page
there, I
5,
guess,
it
yeah.
does.
say
It's
it.
hard to see on what's up on the screen, but
I
we
see it.
definitely are showing an outlot between, south of the proposed hotel.
Okay.
Done a couple quick look at a small restaurant possibly, or a medical, something along those lines. But until we actually have somebody has an interest, we won't know
Okay,
parking and so forth.
thanks.
Mr. Varga.
I have a question. I hadn't thought about this until you just started talking about that outlot. Access to that parcel, with the place where the entrances to the 2 lanes now are, the 2 drives, you couldn't have a separate entrance to that outlot. You'd have to come in off the same openings. I don't know, we're really not talking about any requirements right now. It's more like, how do you think you'd approach accessing this outlot?
Well, again, we have a picture there. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but again, those 2 vertical lanes that are shown with just the hotel, there would be some parking on either side of that, and some additional parking south of the hotel to allow for,
What kind of building?
so they would be just like incorporated into that outlot.
And I hadn't, someplace you're gonna have a sign, a monument sign or something out by Tyler?
Yes, I would believe, yes,
That's
we would
been-
have it out by at least the western access.
And the city's kind of on board with how that would work,
There's no frontage.
because there's no frontage. You're not thinking about putting any big sign on the property that you can see from 5 miles away when you're on the freeway, are you?
Made out of brick, it would be okay.
Now you think?
You deserve that.
Again, whatever, I mean, we're going to have some signage directing people to the hotel.
Right, and we're not the signage people. That's a separate route you go with the city. But-
There's no frontage on Tyler, so,
So what does that mean? I mean, you've said that twice. Now, that implies
well, that means you can't have an off-premise sign.
you can't have an off-premise sign.
Correct.
Okay?
Well, that's not before us now, so.
Nope.
Yeah. That's
So,
not- We'll just let that go.
with that, I'll entertain a motion.
And to approve with, is it 13 conditions now? One being stricken.
Second.
Is it 14?
Number 4 has been stricken.
Okay.
And there was a second? There was a
Is
second.
there a second? No second.
No second?
No second.
Okay, second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Perkovich.
Yes.
Ms. Small.
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann.
Yes.
Mr. Varga.
Yes.
Mr. Crocker.
Yes.
Mr. Haddon.
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
No. And
Thank you.
6 and 7 are going to remain on the table. 8 we already did. We have a miscellaneous review to amend a conditional use permit at 9225 Johnny Cake Ridge Road. Are those applicants here? Please come up, give us your name and address, tell us a little bit about how you want to amend the conditional use permit. And then we'll do the building site alteration after the amendment, okay?
Okay, so my name is Steve Beliveau. I'm a trustee at the Trinity Church.
We're going to need you to spell that.
Beliveau is B as in boy, E-L-L-I, V as in Victor, E-A-U. And the address is 9225 Johnny Cake Ridge Road, Mentor, Ohio. So we are seeking to build an addition to the church to function as a welcoming space for families. We built an addition onto the church 4 years ago that functions as a welcoming space for the general congregation that enters the building, to go to mass or church. And right now we have no space for families to enter the building other than like a hallway at the lower level. And the church seeks to build this addition to create a space for families to enter the building that's more welcoming, and also a space that's 2 stories that will act as a place for the youth to do activities, and add a couple of classrooms so we can separate the different age groups we have in the youth, because right now we have too many kids in certain classes and too many age groups in certain classes. So we'd like to have a couple more classrooms to separate the different age groups of the youth.
Thank you. Anything from the administration?
I know, Mr. Chairman, we have, for the amended conditional use permit, we showed the existing conditions which can be updated based on just time passing, and some of the items have already been met or they're already codified. So we actually have 4 conditions noted that would update the CUP.
Thank you. Anything from the commission members? These additional classrooms, when are they being used? Are they Monday through Friday? Are they Sundays or?
They're definitely Sundays.
Sundays, okay.
And, because we offer classrooms for the youth to go to during worship service, so they're those children that are going to be in the classrooms instead of being in adult church.
I got you.
And then throughout the week, they'll be used for various church-related activities for the youth.
Okay. Is there anything else?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Varga?
I don't know, I guess this, we can talk about this with the proposed, the conditional use permit. You're going to end up with 13 classrooms. You're all going to be, they're all going to be used as classrooms?
Well, when I say classrooms, it's spaces for when you say 13 classrooms, I don't believe we have 13 classrooms.
I just counted the spaces with the addition. I just counted the spaces that were labeled classrooms, and there were 13 of them.
Existing and proposed, correct?
Existing and proposed, yes.
Okay.
I mean, that's a lot of classrooms, but you're only going to use these on Sundays and occasional programs or something like that. I mean, that starts getting close to a school, or.
Yeah, no, there's no intention to have a school.
Okay, well, no,
there.
I mean, you kind of have to ask that question to some degree, because when the preponderance of space is classrooms, and you've got 2 large assembly areas, you're pretty close to having a school. We just need clarification, that's all, that you're using these for a variety of purposes, not for the instruction of students other than religious instruction.
Fine,
Right, okay,
that is the case.
that is the case, okay.
And you got to remember, too, that many of the classrooms are physically small.
Yeah.
And therefore, you've got infants from 0 to 2, and then kids from 2 to 3, and kids from 3 to 4, so you end up needing quite a few spaces.
Sure.
With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with the 4 conditions.
Second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Perkovich?
Yes.
Ms. Small?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Crocker?
Yes.
Mr. Haddon?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes. We have a building addition site alteration at 9225 Johnny Cake Ridge Road. Tell us a little bit about the addition and the site alteration.
Okay, so the addition aesthetically was designed to match the current aesthetics of the church. From the outside, it has a similar look to the main gathering space we built 4 years ago. Same curved entrance roof, same color scheme, similar brick facades, along with the white siding. Inside the space, when you walk in, there's a nice two-story vestibule that's, be nice and intended to be welcoming to families. An area for them to be greeted and parents to drop off their kids to go to the various Sunday school classes. And then adjacent to that is some large doors that open up into almost like a gym that'll be used for youth activities, whether it's various games or movie night, things like that. And then there's a stairway that allows you to go up to the main level of the church. For those that drop off your kids, you can walk up the stairs and then walk over to the main sanctuary. On that same side, we'll have a couple of classrooms, one classroom up and down, and there's an elevator we'll be adding to the church. Currently, there's no way to get from the lower level to the upper level, so we've proposed an elevator for those that need it to get upstairs. And then on the back side, there's a storage room that the church benefit from to store a variety, tables and all kinds of stuff that they have that they just use occasionally. Currently, there's a larger open space on the upper level that's set up on Sundays for the youth and divided up into classrooms and that's a multi-purpose room. Once we we're able to build this space, that large space upstairs will be reserved for the adults and the various adult activities that happen during the week, and won't have to keep changing it over between the adult and youth, and allowing the youth to use this lower area. So we're excited about it, and think it would be a nice addition to the church and the community, nice welcoming space for those that want to attend.
Thank you. Kathy, anything from the administration?
I think we have some of the standard conditions we typically make, but I just would like to point out we love the design. It's very nicely done, but could you carry the masonry knee wall around the west elevation, as well as how you have it on the east and the north? That would be the only one item we wanted to point out.
Yeah, we recognize your comments there and are happy to do that.
Thank you. Anything from the commission members?
Mr. Chairman, I concur. I think it's a great looking addition.
Mr. Varga?
Just have a question, not anything, is the building sprinkled?
Yes.
Because of the assembly areas, I was just thinking, this should probably be sprinkled. Is the existing building sprinkled? No, just the addition. Yeah, and I see there's a firewall, so I understand how that works. Okay, thank you.
Oh, you got to come up. Give us your name and address if you're going to.
Ray Banari, B-A-N-A-R-Y. We intend to sprinkle.
Right into the mic.
We intend to sprinkle the fellowship hall of the existing portion and the new portion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We would love to hear more about the slide.
Yeah.
Keep going around it. I'm like, what slide? Nobody wants to know.
Yeah, let's hear about it.
Larry's really itching to hear about this. We were so excited about this slide. We thought it was pretty cool.
So what we thought, and we've seen it in other churches, where the kids come in, it's a welcome area, the drop off. It's a lot of a lot goes into bringing the kids into the church. So what we thought would be a really nice thing for them to see, to want to come more, was a slide from the second floor. Circular one, we'll put extra padding, whatever we have to do code-wise to do that, but apparently you guys are interested in that.
Pretty cool.
That sounds like a ribbon cutting event.
And what I said was, because I have 3 older children, and I know what they do, they would get off the slide, they'd run to that elevator, go wee on the way up, but the elevator will not be used for children.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Crocker?
is there an age limit to the slide?
No, you can't use it.
Probably a weight limit.
That's
Oh,
fair.
got you there.
Yeah, I actually live in the area, and I saw that last edition you guys did, and it looks fantastic. I actually used your parking lot to teach my kid to parallel park, so, years ago. With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with the 5 conditions?
Second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Perkovich.
Yes.
Ms. Small.
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann.
Yes.
Mr. Varga.
Yes.
Mr. Crocker.
Yes.
Mr. Hadden.
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy, anything?
Nothing else.
Photos?
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.